All right, guys, so we're here once again. Let's look at some commentary rolls. This one's going to be from supine position versus a standing opponent. Now, obviously, first of all, we're in a different setting because of some lockdown issues, so we're in a different place this time. But nonetheless, we're still going to go over some good footage. The rules of engagement for this particular set of matches. In the seated versus standing open guard, it was mostly me just either sweeping people down to their butt and getting on top, or entering into the legs. All right, if I got to an X guard or an ashigarami, then we would finish it there. This is going to be a lot more sweeping and getting on top, or going into ashigarami X guard and then sweeping from there until I either get on top or a sweep is obviously inevitable. So this will be a lot more play from Delhiva, reverse Delhiva, ashigarami, X guard, where if I enter into the legs, I'll have to finish a sweep before we reset. Okay, so those are the rules of engagement. If he passes me, we reset. If he takes my back, we reset. If I take his back or sweep him, then it's a reset. Okay, so let's now take a look at this first roll here. Turn the volume down. All right. It's just immediately always making some kind of connection, so he can't look to start throwing my legs by and outflanking me. And you notice again, we'll take a look at this tripod sweep here. So you notice as he starts to start going, I'm always making sure, you can't really see with my right hand here, but pulling that foot off the mat, so when he goes to backstep with his right leg, it's difficult, and he always gets set down towards the floor. And now a sweep is inevitable. My head swept way higher than his. He's on his back, and it's easy for me to come up to top position. He has the first initial tripod sweep there. Second tripod sweep there. Okay, so let's look at that. Comes in. There's a few inversions here where he tries to go in and start getting past my legs. I keep constantly, see, there's always a connection to him. This is more along the lines of guard retention stuff, but you see how there's never a point where I don't have some form of connection with my body to his. And then you see he goes right from his offensive cycle where he goes start trying to pass offensive, and then right as we reset, I go right back into my offensive cycle. Okay. And you see here, the foot goes to the hip, and now immediately, you see his foot come off the floor there. Okay, so now he's 2 feet completely off the ground, and that makes the sweep nice and easy. You see a nice Nogi Barambola entry there into the legs. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So he goes to start backstepping. So he does a great job of not allowing me to take my 2 legs behind his and start going into a crab ride, because he has his left hand here on my right ankle. So it makes it hard for me to pommel my ankle behind his hamstring. So instead, he monitors my leg and tries to go into a backstep. Now notice, as he goes to backstep, I take my knee down towards the floor so he can't capture my knee within his knee line. You see here, as he goes to backstep, I subtly take my left knee down towards the floor so he can't catch it. Now, that starts to facilitate a cross lat post, an inversion, and a knee behind his knee. Here. And now from here, it's easy now to start getting that back exposure, where now you can either choose to come up to the back, or in this case, as I went to go chase the back, Placido faced me, and now it's easy to go into an attack on his legs. Okay, so you see here, I have that scoop grip on the far leg with my left hand here. So as he goes to turn and face me, instead of giving me back exposure, he gives me limb exposure. And now I can enter into the legs with that berimbolo. So he's constantly always forming a connection. When he throws his legs by, he's getting a hold of an ankle so he can't stay in that offensive cycle. And once again, a tripod sweep. This time, a reverse tripod from reverse Telehiva. So my right hand grabs now. But notice, you see his foot's on the ground, planted, 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 and now it's elevated. So now as he goes to step his left leg out, he can't because he doesn't have base support with his right leg. And down to his butt he goes. And now it's easy for me to get up to the top position. And you see, whenever he takes two hands on my shins, if he stays for even a split second, taking his hands forward and threatening entanglement on his legs. Now he does a good job of taking his legs off center. You see how he steps out to the side to a flank position here. So he avoids the initial ashigarami. He steps and gets his body off center. That gives me more access now to the ankles. So you see I'm making space, he's leaning back. The second he goes to lean forward, so you see how he commits his weight forward there? I immediately pull him forward into me. As he goes to lean forward, I pull him forward, and I use that to get his hands to the floor. So the second his head goes from over my hips to over my head, that's my opportunity now to pull my knees to my chest, off balance him to the floor, and now the second his hands are on the floor, I pommel a leg to the inside. And notice now he tries to pommel to he tries to hit a top pommel where his left shin, or his right shin rather, moves on top of my left shin right here. But I have a sticky hook in place, so now it's impossible for him to get his shin on top of my shin because I brought my left leg up to follow him, like so. You see how he just misses that pommel with his right leg? It's very important. So I have a sticky hook with my left foot, and as my right foot pommels inside, now we have 2 feet to the inside position. We can go into our X guard entrances. Okay, so let's look at that X guard attempt right there. So he goes to stand up here. I block the foot, block, 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 block. I get him stepping, and see he tries to pommel out, but you see how my foot is so close to his ankle the entire time? Just staying so sticky where my ankle follows his. Now I get him down to a butt, but just at the last second, you see his foot pops out. So he lands on his shin instead. Where now he's going to come up, it's hard for me to get up because he's not all the way broken down to a hip. So I go from an X guard, and I move back into an ashigarami, like so. And I shoot my legs around to the outside, and I pendulum his leg almost down to the floor. I cut my leg across his leg and bring his knee down to the floor. So that now from here, it's easy for me to lock an initial scorpion, feed it up to the shoulder, go to a scoop scorpion, and now feed it across. Now we can start going in and attacking back exposure or sweeps. And now from here, we're up into his back. Take a look at that. So we lock the initial scorpion, like so. We go from an Achilles grip to a scoop grip. We pass across. We punch an underhook in. Now there's all kinds of back exposure there. So now we rock one way to threaten a sweep. He defends by moving back in the opposite direction. And that facilitates me coming around the corner and creating back exposure. Moving to that claw grip we talk about in attacking turtle. Where now from here, he has 2 choices. If he moves to his right, out in this direction, he gets swept. So he's no choice but to try to turn back into me. And as he goes to do that, he turns into me, but the entire time, notice that claw grip allows my ear to stay behind his tricep and shoulder here. So as he goes to turn into me, he turns into me, but I still have his back exposed. So now it's easy for me as he goes to turn to follow him up with that good head positioning. And now we're on his back. Okay. So we play dilemma of sweeping and back exposure. No sweep, no problem. He goes to come on top. We stay behind the elbow and come on top into a position where we can attack our partner's back instead. Let's take a look at that. So we did a great job initially pommeling the leg so I couldn't get an ashigarami. So I initially pommeled out, but now you see what happens. When he goes to step out, he brings his hip way outside of his knee. So he counters the initial ashigarami by keeping tight knees and then backstepping. But you notice when he backsteps, look at his knee position relative to his hip. His hip is way outside of his knee, which means that my cross post with that right hand and a butterfly hook with my inside leg allows me to knock him out and over to the side. Cross post, butterfly hook. And it allows me to knock him over to the side to bring his hip far outside of his knee and get a hand posted on the mat. When that happens, I can easily come off my hip, backstep, and now I'm into the legs with double trouble. So he solves one problem, which is the initial ashigarami, me entering in and getting two legs inside. He solves that problem by backstepping. But he creates another issue where now his hip is far outside of his knee and he has a hand on the floor. This is our prime attacking position here. Barambolos, leg entrances, all kinds of things we talked about. And now from here, it's easy for me to keep the weight over to that side and start backstepping into the legs. Let's take a look at that. You see there was a shoulder crunch to Migishi there, but I didn't go for it because that's more seated guard. So you see the initial entanglement of the legs here. So I have a pseudo X guard where I try to go switch to X guard, but he does a great job of pommeling his leg out with a front pommel and stepping around. But because he's so off balance here, you see all the weight is on one of his legs, and he's off balance here. This makes it impossible for me to lock an X guard because he's pommeling his leg well. Because all the weight's on one leg, I know this leg is stationary now. So it allows me to go from a failed X guard attempt right into an outside ashigarami attempt, like so, and sit him down because all of his weight is leaning in this direction and his shoulders are relatively over his hips. So as he pummels that leg out, he moves into an upright position and now makes it easy for me to fire my legs up and switch right to an outside ashigarami and sit him down to the floor. You see once again that immediate connection to the ankles, and every time he goes to lean forwards, where his head moves from over my hips to over my head, that always facilitates that inversion possibility. You see his head positioning? So his feet go from a staggered stance to a square stance relatively, and his head moves from over my hips to over my head. This makes it incredibly easy now for me to go from a push to keep distance to a pull to take away distance. Now go underneath him and start to go for an inversion. He does a great job of keeping balance, coming up back on top. Okay, so let's take a look at that entrance there. So you see I have 2 feet outside. I have 1 foot outside rather. I go for a reverse tripod to get him off balance. Okay, so this whole time I'm getting him off balance, getting him off balance. I fail to knock him over, but I get him off balance enough where he has to blade his legs and put pressure back into me. And as that happens, he has to put pressure forwards into me to not fall backwards. So right now, if he stays upright, he's going to fall. He's going to hop, 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 and fall. So he has to lean his shoulders forward in order not to fall backwards. And as that happens, he's so caught up in coming forwards into me and not get taken backwards that he allows my 2 feet to go from the inside, or the outside to the inside. So right now, my left leg is on the outside position on his hip. As he gets off balance, I pommel 2 legs to the inside, right there. And now from here, we have the inside leg positioning, and we'll play from there. So now he did a good job of pinning my leg and trying to backstep, but he moved so far away that he gave me the entrance of the near leg instead. But because he still had a V grip, it made it easy for him to pull his knee free. And now he's out. So you also see I switched from an Achilles grip to a heel hook grip. And that's where I lost it. Now he's out. Now some back exposure there, but neither one of us are really going crazy, so he spun back on top and did a good job going right back into his attacks. Okay, so this time, notice I have a grip on his ankle here, and he goes to pull that foot off the ground to try to step around my guard to the opposite side. So what he wanted to do was to start left side, and then pull that foot out and pommel his legs to a position where he could start outflanking me in the right side by hitting a Tori on the back in this direction here. But as he did that, I pulled his foot off the ground and made a pass off to my right hand. Where now from here, I can pull him into a position where my legs now are on the inside. So instead of pommeling my legs, to the inside, I just pull his foot to the outside. Okay? So from here I go left hand, he pulls his foot off the ground. I use that left hand to keep his foot off the ground, and I make a pass off to my right hand, where now, again, we have that initial stickiness, where I have my hand holding his ankle and my leg wedging it on the opposite side. So my right leg is a wedge behind his calf, and my right hand is a wedge in front of his ankle. So that wedges his leg in place pretty good. And now I have a second wedge with my hands. I have 2-on-1 with the hands, and my legs in place. So now when he goes to pull out, it's not an easy thing to do. And now from here, I have that initial ashikarami. Now I try to sit him backwards, but he does a great job keeping his hands on the floor here. So instead, we transition to X guard. His hands on his floor and trying to pommel from here. So we move to an X guard, from a Rimi Ashigarami to an X guard. And now from here, we look to start off balancing him. Now as he goes to backstep, you notice I have a scissor guard. We'll talk more about this on the guard retention video that we'll do. But I have a scissor guard here, like a pseudo scissor guard, where from here, I have a scissor on both sides of his legs. So as Placido goes to backstep, between that Achilles grip, that cross post with the direction hand, and the scissor guard with the connection with the full body, it makes it easy for me to follow him through as he backsteps and form a connection as we fall. You see, once again, the second he comes forward, you see his leg is relatively square. His head is relatively over my hips here. His legs are relatively staggered, and his head's relatively over my hips here. The second he comes forward with almost square legs, and his head comes over mine, you see there's no inversion here. The second his head leans forward, there's the inversion. Immediately knee behind his knee. Now we have Oshiro X guard with control of both of his legs. And we use that Oshiro X to enter into a cross Ashigurami. So we come in, we go Oshiro X, we have control of both of his legs now. As he goes to pommel and move from here, it's not easy, both of his hands are on the same side of my body, and I control both of his legs. The whole thing is to get his hips over my head. There it is. So that now I can drop him down into cross Ashigurami, and we're into our favorite attacking position on the legs. You see once again that constant Kazushi. See his legs are relatively staggered from here. His head's over my hips. The second he goes to step forwards to a square stance, and his head comes over mine, pulls the knees to the chest, and start that inversion. Now we have a wedge on either side of his leg with my legs, and knee behind his knee. And then 2 feet try to catch behind, and he starts to square up. But I use that initial Kazushi, that initial off balance. To get him stepping, to create motion. The second he goes to turn around, he comes onto a reverse tripod. Now the reverse tripod fails because he does a great job of grabbing my ankle. You see that? So as I go to come up, I put him down to his butt, but he grabs my ankle. So it's hard for me to heist here. So instead of heisting, I just go back to a guard and I switch hands. Okay, so you see the interplay now between 2 different guards. We start in a reverse Delahiva here. We move to an outside Delahiva mid-transition. So we go from a reverse Delahiva to an outside Delahiva. We start that Berimbolo action. Or from here, I tried to go into an initial Berimbolo by knocking him over with that leg. That failed. So instead I put a butterfly hook in. You see right now his hip is over his knee, so he's relatively balanced. From here, I put a butterfly hook in. The right leg, you see it there, see my toes. So now I can start pushing him out and over to the side. So now I can bow his hip outside of his knee. You see that? There to there is all I need. Now he has a hand on the floor, and his hip is coming outside of his knee. But now from here, as he goes to get up, if he drives into me, I backstep. So you see Placido doesn't allow the backstep. He takes his leg away from me. He knows the backstep's there. So as he opens up his left knee and avoids the backstep, you see my leg coming in? That now facilitates the sweep where I come on top, and now I have top position. So you play a dilemma game between the backstep here or the sweep here. Just basic Ashigurami. Sit down there. So we come in. See, this time he puts 2 hands on my shins, like so. I bump him forward, and he fails to get his legs out of the way. So before he hit the proper backstep, where he backstepped out to a flank, this time he didn't. So you see, he goes to step inside, he can't. My 2 feet block his legs. So you see, I have feet separated. He has hands on my shins. The second I come forward, my 2 feet join. So now there's no way that his leg can steal the inside position relative to my 2 feet. And now this makes it very, very easy to take my 2 feet inside Immediately hit a Kazushi where I bump him forwards to get him off balance, and look at my right hand now. Gathers a second leg. So I have one leg controlled, my left hand on this side, you can't really see it yet. I bump him forward, we get to 2 legs, and now he goes to base. Before he can base, I sit him down, and now we're in top positioning. Okay, so textbook right out of the series, as everything has been so far. He puts 2 hands on, and most basic thing we did was we entered into an ashigurami right from here. He puts 2 hands on me, we enter into an initial ashigurami, and then we do all of our work right from there, bumping him forward, getting to 2 legs, and sitting him down. You see once again, he goes from a staggered stance, he steps into an outside de la Hiva, or a reverse de la Hiva. He goes from a staggered stance to a square stance with his head over mine. And as he goes to start forcing me down, makes the inversion very easy. We get a leg behind his leg. Now when he goes to square, I've controlled both of his legs. Now see, he does a good job defending. See, I told you that was that initial issue with the crab rod. When you go to sit him down, he can grab both my heels and stuff me. See there. That's why I prefer, in general, to move from a crab rod to an Oshiro X, which is what we did right here. And then the round ended, and that's the end of the first roll. Okay, so here's roll 2. Start off with that. Okay, so you see the initial knee lever there. So we come in. This is kind of moving into half guard territory, but he goes into a split squat into a reverse de la Hiva. And you notice the second he moves in, watch my hands. Left hand grabs, right hand grabs. So I have a 2-on-1. So as he goes to move in now, he's caught with that 2-on-1. See there. So now anything he does where he drives forward into me, it's going to make it very easy now for me to put his hand on the floor, or his knee on the floor rather. So notice I very subtly take my left foot and I put it shoelace to shoelace. This makes it incredibly easy now for me to put his knee on the floor, even more so than it was before. Because now I can pull the 2-on-1 and I can extend with my legs. Notice he tries to go into a knee slice. See, his knee will drop towards the floor. He tries to go into a knee slice, but because I have a wedge on top and on bottom of his foot, the foot will always get caught. So as he goes to knee slice now, failed attempt, and it makes it easy for me to extend his leg and chop his knee down to the ground with my right foot. And now from here, because I have the 2-on-1, when he goes to base out with his hands, we're foot over foot, the underhook comes in. You see the underhook ready to punch in. My hand's already there before the knee lever even starts. Boom. And now once we come up, underhook goes in. He tries to get back on top, but notice he's too late. There. Now it's done. And now as he goes to fight the top position, it's already too late. Something very interesting happened before the tripod sweep as well. So he's at initial off balance to start getting him off balance. But now I feel because he has a hand on the knee, he can start to outflank me if he wants to. So you see the interplay now between a supine guard versus a standing opponent and a seated guard versus a standing opponent. If I would have came up to seated, now you just go in shin to shin and you enter into ashikurami or all the previous attacks that we looked at, double kuichi from there. You play from there. Obviously, it wasn't a seated round, so I went back to supine and chose to go into more attacks from there. And see, the second that happens, I immediately go foot to the hip. So he tries to go throw by. There. As he does that, I go foot to the hip, and now watch his right foot. Right foot's off the floor. So now as he goes to backstep with the left, it's impossible. And raising the ankles makes it easy to come up to top position. So you're doing a good job of stepping out of leg entanglements. See there, he posts. The second I go to take my legs inside, he does a great job of. So I have 2 feet inside now, so that's the danger of going into Ashigarami. I have 2 feet inside. If he stays there, he's going to get beat. So he realizes right away, post that ankle, step the leg out. Now he's safe again. And I use that initial Kazuchi to almost get him down with the off balance. But before I can elevate his foot, notice he turns away and kicks out. Why did he do that? Because I wasn't able to get the initial connection of his ankle to my hip or his shoelaces underneath my butt. Because it came off there's a follow-up to a separate sweep. Okay, so he went to come into me. I went to hit that initial Ashigarami entrance. He went to go backstep, and now you see the disconnect between my hips and his ankle. So now, as I went to go hit the tripod, because it was a follow-up, my hand and hip position was a little off. So he kicked out and broke that connection, and I wasn't able to elevate his heel off the mat. You can see the second the head comes in, this stance squares. It's so easy now to go into our inversions. And you see all I needed was an initial Kazushi with the inversion to get my leg to the inside. So use that initial inversion to get him to that prime position we talk about so much. The hip outside the knee and the hand on the floor. Perfect. So now he tries to come back up. I hit it a second time, this time with more momentum. I get his foot from the inside of my thigh, butterfly hook, to the outside. And now his hip is way over his knees, hip weight's all the way onto his hand, and now it makes it easy for me to either backstep, but you see he opened up his leg. You see the backsteps there, gone. And he opens up his leg. But now because he's sitting so far away from me, it makes it easy now for me to build to a base. And you see he tries to get back up, but it's too late. My head's already much higher than his. You see he takes his hand off the floor and he tries to get back up to not get swept, but mechanically it's too late from here. And now I'm on top. See another reverse tripod there. Notice once again his left foot comes off the ground. So planted, and now it's elevated. And now he's down. have here. We get him where hip outside the knee, hand on the ground. Now we can go into our, I could have just backstepped from here, but I chose to go into a Nogi Berimbolo instead, where now there's back exposure. So you see I have a wedge behind his knee. You see my toes kind of up here. My knee's somewhere over here. Can't see it in the camera. My knee's behind his knee over here. That's what allows me to shoot him forwards into me. And you see what's happening here? We talked about this specifically. If he resists the sweep, he gives you back exposure. If he tries to stay on top of you, there's always back exposure. If he accepts the sweep and he throws his upper back to the floor so there's no upper back exposure, then he gives you leg entries, which we looked at in the first roll with Placido, where there's no real back exposure, or not as much back exposure. Placido, there's still some back exposure, but I entered into the legs. There's not as much back exposure, we enter into the legs. When there's more back exposure, when the guy's fighting the sweep hard, there's always back exposure. This is a perfect example. So I go to come underneath him. See how he's trying to base up here and stay on top? He's trying to keep his upper back off the floor and do everything he can to square himself to me. Whenever he does that, there's always back exposure now. Okay, so being able to hit Nogi Berimbolos is based on a dilemma between your partner's reaction with them either one, keeping their upper back on the floor, accepting a sweep but not giving you back exposure, in which case their legs are always exposed, or two, never accepting a sweep and trying to stay on top with a good base support, and then the upper back's exposed and you can always take their back. Okay, so it's a simple dilemma between the legs and the back, and you're guaranteed one as you go into your initial inversion. Take a look at that initial Ashigurami entrance. So, right now I have one knee inside, 1 foot to the outside. So from here, a foot still to the outside. And notice, his head is right over the top of mine right now. My head's between his elbows. So I hit an initial off balance as he goes to pommel. My right leg, you see my right leg's underneath his shin. And my direction hand with this cross lap post here. So I went from being completely underneath him to putting him out to an angle. And as I did that, that makes it easy now because all the weight is on his right hand, pushing all the weight towards his right hand here. So he has no ability to grab my foot or to bring his knee to his elbow to stop my left foot from coming inside of his thigh. So as he goes to recapture balance, that's my opportunity, my cue, to pommel my left foot from the outside. My toes are over here, a little blurry patch there, to the inside, where now my foot is on his hip. We move with an initial Kazushi, we go from outside position with one leg to the inside position with both legs. And now from here, we're in an Ashigurami situation, where he tries to go in for a back step by posting my ankle, but I get his hands to the floor. Now I switch to an X guard and I put his hands to the floor again, this time above my head. Now he put his hands down on the ground. And now we create that weightless heel. Start pulling everything towards us. So notice, he has a hand on the floor, foot on the floor. See if I can get it just right. No, his arm's in the way. So he puts foot on the floor. I get that heel just off the ground. You can kind of see in that little space there, his heel's off the ground, his toes on the floor. And that makes it easy for me to drag his leg towards me and catch it. Now we set him down. Now we went into outside Ashigurami on the opposite leg. And you see once again, he goes in to start squaring to me. As that foot steps up, his head comes over mine. That makes it easy now for me to start pulling him in towards me. Now from here, we get a knee behind the hamstring, and the foot pommels behind the hamstring as well. As the foot comes behind the hamstring, we make a pass off. So I notice here, I lost the second leg. He's already coming back into me. He does a great job of coming up, and he uses his left hand to push my foot off, so I have no sticky hook controlling his left leg here. As that happens, I say, no problem, I don't need the second leg. So I straighten my right leg slightly, and I make a pass off to my left hand. There. So right now I'm looking for a crab ride. Now I'm thinking in my mind, okay, crab ride's here, but I don't have control of his far leg. So when I see that, no problem. We go from crab leg to now Ashigurami is on my mind. Ashigurami X guard. Where now, as he goes to square to me, now we're in an X guard once again. So because the crab ride failed, because he did a great job of taking my sticky hook off his far leg, and I no longer have control of both of his legs, we make a pass off from right hand to left hand, right hand to left hand, right hand to left hand, and that makes it easy now for me to enter into a follow-up X guard entry. So we got initial inversion, we're thinking crab ride, crab ride, crab ride fails, X guard, and right into another offensive cycle. Or continuing our offensive cycle rather. Keeping his hands on the floor in X guard. He tries to pommel. And then I get to two of his legs. I have two of his legs controlled here. It's hard for him to backstep. And go into another Ashigurami, put his hands to the floor again. You see constantly keeping his hands on the ground. That's just being so sticky. Every time he goes to move, it's sticky. We get to the second leg. Legs are sticky. See, he's trying to pommel his legs here. Doing kind of a dance with his legs, and my legs are just following. The initial stickiness where we go in, we catch the second leg, and now he goes to backstep again. He can't because his leg's caught. And now you see he's so far turned away from me. You see all the heel exposure on his heel there. Now he goes to turn back into me. Probably could have got my leg across if I wanted to, but it's okay. I gotta sweep him. He goes to square to me. And now before he can peel my leg off and backstep, I bump his hands forward right again. Notice my right hand just instinctually already reaching for that leg of his. So now we control two legs again. Now he goes to pommel. He goes to square. He goes to knee slice out, but again, that's stickiness to him, where I have my leg on one side of his shoelaces and my hand on the opposite side above his Achilles. So when he goes to knee slice out, he gets stuck. Now he has no choice but to come back in. He goes to knee slice out, he gets stuck. And now, instead of bumping him forward this time, I went forward the first couple times. He's thinking I'm going to bump him forward. So instead of bumping him forward, I go backwards. And I could have come up from here, but he chose to come up back on top. You see this time, the initial inversion. So see, squared legs and a head over my head. I get him moving forward, and this time I switch to a scoop grip on the far leg. I use my right leg inside of his leg and hips to make space to the extension of my right leg. So right now my heel is pretty much connected to my butt. I extend my right leg, so heel to butt, extend the right leg, and I make space always for the left leg to come in. And now I build to an elbow, I build to a hand here. And now I heist, and we're up in top position. So let's take a look here. So initially, I have 2 feet on his hips, like so he can't pressure into me. Now I try to go for a tripod sweep, but he actually grabs a hold of my foot. Okay, you can't really see it, but you can see it a little bit here. He has a hold of my foot. That's hard for me to go in for a tripod sweep. So whenever I see that, I just take 2 feet to the inside. Okay, he does a decent job of trying to knee slide out of there. So he realizes right here, okay, his 2 feet are inside, I have to get out of here. He tries to knee slice across, but notice that left hand comes down, puts a wedge on top of his Achilles, and what is there on bottom of his Achilles? My calf. So now there's a wedge on both sides. You see the full connection there. I have fingertips to calf muscle. So almost a full circle. You see I have a fingertips to shin there, and I have my knee connected to my elbow. So this is a tight wedge you can get around his leg. So when he goes to pull that leg out, doesn't go anywhere. And then in addition to that, I have a strong connection on this side. I put a wedge in front of his thigh on the opposite side with my right foot. So now his leg is completely wedged in place. This is the difference between a gold medal and a silver medal. Okay, this stuff right here. Not all the fancy, crazy, big. These salties right here is what's going to win you championships, or beating the best guys in the world in the gym. Okay, so now his leg, he can't knee slide out, so he has to come back into me. The second he comes back into me, notice he goes from one extreme to the other. His knee is pointing all the way east. He realizes that's not going to work, so he goes to correct himself, and now his knee points square to me. That makes it easy now for me to start getting him out and over. So now his knee goes from pointing all the way east, like so, to all the way west, like so. And where do we have him? Hip outside the knee, hand on the floor, prime attacking position. Now from here, we go to come up. He puts a butterfly hook in. So now this makes it hard for me to backstep. Butterfly hooks in, the knee's open. Right now the knee's closed. The knee opens. He puts a butterfly hook in. So now instead of backstepping to get over the knee, we just heist up on top. And now we're in top position for the win. Okay, so many little intricacies and subtleties, but these are the things that make the difference. And once again, he comes in, he squares, he puts his head over mine, I pull the knees to the chest, and I go right from grip on his ankle, or I don't even have a grip on his ankle, to a scoop grip here. Now I use that this time, instead of going in and heisting, to switch to a scorpion, where I fire my leg from the inside to the knee to the outside to a scorpion. Now I have all the lower body inside position, and I have a scoop grip. So when he goes to take a strong cross-facing underhook on me, it's so easy to unlock his hands and get his hands to the floor. If he doesn't unlock his hands from here, then he just falls over. The second you start off balancing out to the side, he has to post his elbow out. You see, right now the only inside position he has is his elbow relative to my elbow. So his right elbow is inside my left elbow. So once I get that left elbow inside, I dominate all the inside real estate. So all I have to do is off balance him over his right shoulder, and then boom. Starting to slip, and now my elbow is far inside his elbow, and now I dominate all of the upper body inside real estate as well. Okay, so he has one piece of inside position of the entire body, and that's his elbow positioning here. Okay, versus my inside position down at the lower body, and my scoop grip here. So all I have to do is get that last bit of inside real estate by off balancing up and over the left shoulder, and now from here, we're in a very good attacking situation. We keep the weight on him, keep the weight on his hands, start building to an elbow, and now from here, because I'm starting to build up height, that allows me to start extracting my leg while keeping weight over his calf. And you see he's trying to get up here, but I'm stepping on his calf muscle. So you see, as I'm rising, he's not. So just as I always speak about, we're looking to undermine the athletic potential of our opponent rather than trying to make ourselves more athletic. I'm not trying to get up faster than he is. Okay? Right now, his hips and his head are higher than mine. So I'm not trying to get up. I'm not trying to be more athletic and jump to top position faster than he can put me back on bottom. What I'm trying to do is make him slower than I am. So that as he's moving, he's still moving slowly. I'm just moving faster than he is. Okay, that's what we're looking for. So right now he's on an elbow and he's completely on top of me. So what I want to do is I want to build up. Now he's on his hand. Okay, so he moves from his elbow to his hands. Now he's far higher than me. But I build to an elbow, and now I'm starting to catch up. Now I step on his calf muscle, and now I'm on my hip. I move from a hip to a shin. And notice he stayed the same height the entire time. He went from his elbow to his hand. Now he can't build any height. So he's static. Now I'm building height. I'm moving to a better spot. Now I'm up with my shin. Now I'm in a great spot. And now this is where the tide turns. As I come up, I come forward, and now he starts to crumble. So his arm starts to bend, his hip and head height start to drop, and now next thing you know, I'm on top for the win. Little reverse tripod action there. You see I lift. Just at the last second, he turns his heel away and slides out. Now there was back exposure there, but you see I'm not really interested in chasing him up and creating a scramble. And he slips out and away, and we restart. And that's the end of that round. Let's look here at round 3, I believe. And so we come in. Again, always that initial connection to the ankles to limit mobility. Get behind him with crab ride, and just to keep that stickiness with the grips. So you see from here, I try to come in. I go from outs or reverse Telehiva to a situation where I switch hips. So you see I switch to an outside Telehiva, but I don't switch my hands. So that my free hand now can start going to his far leg. So I get an initial deep bite on his far hamstring or his far quadricep with my left leg. My right leg pommels behind, and then my left hand goes chasing for that left foot. So you see he does a great job of V-gripping there, my ankle, so that I can't control his far leg and stepping around, but I do a good job of chasing with my left hand and re-pommeling my foot as he goes to reclaim balance. So you see, he actually stepped the wrong way from here. If he would have planted his foot and turned right away in this direction to his right, there's nothing from stopping him from turning into me because there's nothing impeding his left leg. But instead, he went to go turn towards me, towards his left, and his right leg's trapped. So as he goes to turn, his right hip is caught, and he can't turn into me. Now it slows him down enough. As he has to pull that leg out, it slows him down enough to where now his left leg has all the weight on it, and I can easily grab it now with my left hand. Okay. So now from here, just a matter of keeping his hands down on the floor, and he does a good job of sitting back on top of me, not allowing his hands to go to the floor, because I initially put his hand down to the floor. Now he leans back on top of me, takes his hands off the ground. Or from here, he goes to start trying to pommel around to the side. He goes to try to pommel around and kick out, but I have both his ankles controlled pretty well from here. And now because he leans so far forward, it's easy to take him over to where he has no base support, which is not towards his hand, but towards his hip rather. So now when he gets to base, the hand can only base out so far in that direction, and a backwards roll will easily take him up and over. So notice again, second he goes to square and leans his head over mine. Makes it easy now for me to start inverting. Notice he's doing a good job of keeping a base from here. So I pump the legs like we talked about. Notice I push my legs forward first, ever so slightly, and then I pull him in towards me. Okay, so the whole time I have my knee inside of his hip, my left knee up here. I'm pushing into his hip, pushing into his hip, pushing into his hip. And the second he goes to push back, that makes the inversion easy. Like so. And now from here he goes to step out, but you just keep that stickiness with the two hands. We trip him up. Now the second his hands hit the floor, my foot pommels from the outside to the inside, because now the weight's on his hands and he has no ability to control my feet or ankles with his hands. So you get the hands going towards the floor, and now my foot comes to the inside, we chase the hips, and now we're right on his back. See, it's a multi-directional situation here where I pull him forward by just pulling my knees to my chest and getting his hands to the floor. Now I try to pommel my leg inside, but he's so side on. You see how he's so side on from here? It's kind of hard to pommel my leg inside. So instead, I let him stand back up, and the second he goes to stand back up, we immediately go in and go for our tripod sweep. Okay. Now it's easy to chain the tripod together because his foot's already off the ground here. His foot's off the ground, off the ground, off the ground. And then as he goes to stand up, you notice I never allow his foot to go back to the floor. So you see from here, his foot's elevated, his foot's elevated, his foot's elevated. His foot's still elevated. You see his heel's off the ground here. So the second he goes to square back up to me, so his head's way off center here. The second he squares, boom, now we're ready to go. Now I can hop 1, 2, 3 times, and inevitably goes down. So let's run it through. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and now he's down. Okay, so this is the chaining of these attacks together, something very important that we have to look at here. So we come in, we have initial connection as he goes to start passing. we hit our Ashigurami entrance. So take a look at that. This time it starts to play a close range game. Where now from here I managed to get my right knee inside of his hip. You see that? My right knee is inside of his hip now, and I have a grip on his lower leg here where he can't sprawl that leg back and away from me. So I now control that leg. Now that inside knee and that control on that leg, it makes it easy for me to launch my left leg around and enter into, in this case, an outside Ashigurami, and we get the win from there. A lot going on here. I went to go invert. I tripped up his legs a little bit. He managed to come back on top. I go for a shoulder crunch. He does a good job before pointing out, but as the upper body pulls away, the lower body is always there. So we go into the legs. We get him hopping backwards. He peels the foot off, and the second he peels the foot off, before he can reclaim balance, we already move to an X guard and start elevating. So the Ashigurami fails. The problem, we move to an X guard. Actually, it's a reverse X guard in this situation. Now we use that to pass the leg across. So he actually steps the leg across willingly and puts his leg on the opposite side of my body. And now from here, he goes to jump forwards to escape, but my hand goes from above the knee down to the ankle, and I hug that ankle between my hand and my own leg. So as he goes to pull out and away, it allows me to climb up and get to his hip, and now his back exposure. Okay. So I control two of his legs. I'm bumping him forward. He responds by trying to take his hand off the ground. Then we go backwards. Now as he goes to come up, notice I put tension running through my right leg with the butterfly hook to keep his left hand on the ground, or his right hand on the ground rather. This allows me to start wiggling my left foot from the outside position to the inside position. And now from here, with the inside real estate without my legs, we go into a X guard. We can control two of his legs, and we use that to sit him down, and now we're up on top. Some more guard retention stuff we'll go over in the future. So you see my legs aren't inside yet. He's actually north-south here. So I recover. As I recover, you notice I get one leg and then two legs inside here. So I have two legs inside as he goes to come on into me. So his legs are pretty wide here, and my legs come inside very easily. So all of his weight's on his hands, that makes it hard for him to monitor my feet with his legs. So he doesn't do any leg pommeling, and it allows my legs to easily come inside from here. Now, once my legs are inside, it makes it easy for me to switch from the 2 feet inside to an X guard, like so. So that now from here, I can start bumping him forward. You see his leg from there? See, he tried to get his leg out. Look at this pommel he tries to do. You have to have that feeling that you are stuck to your partner. Watch him try to pommel the leg out. That gives me the time I need. Those extra few seconds are what's going to make you succeed or fail. Those extra few seconds allow me to get to the secondary leg, to control it with my hand. If he would have kicked out, he maybe passed my guard. But I control his second leg with my hand. That gives me gave me the time that I needed to switch to an outside ashigarami. Now with 2 legs controlled, and now it's very easy from here to knock him down and switch into our attacks. Okay, that's the difference between gold medal, silver medal, beating up tough guys in the gym versus losing position and getting your guard pass, maybe getting held down the whole round. Okay, those small things. So now he gets to drive into me. As he does, I manage to scoop the far leg and come up. Now notice I try to heist up and it fails a few times. Watch how he goes to kick his leg back. Just speaking on that stickiness here. Watch the connection of my left foot to the inside of his knee and my right foot to the back of his calf / knee. As he goes to kick out, notice both of my feet always follow his leg to stop the kick out. This is what I mean by that having that stickiness. The whole time we're sticky to that leg. He goes a step forwards, and the hand and the knee join together to stop that forward step. He goes to pommel. We just keep that leg connection the whole time. From four minutes and 6 seconds into the roll, all the way down to 4 minutes and 46 seconds. 46 seconds of just being sticky to that leg and not allowing him to just kick out right away. Okay, let's run through that one more time. Sticky the whole time. Sticky, sticky, sticky. He's trying to backstep. He's trying to backstep. Fails. He tries to forward step now where he goes come around the corner. So the heist, I can't get up. I can't enter into X guard. He goes to step around, and now I'm sticky. Now he goes to step back the opposite way. Now we're sticky again. Still that scoop grip. Still sticky with the X guard. Now he goes to stay forward. Now I have control with the second hand. Now I have control of both of his legs with my hand. I'm constantly off balancing from here. And now he goes to sit and throw his hip to the floor. And that's fine. Now I can let it go and either get up or throw my leg into the center. And now I have a cross ashigarami, and we can go into our attacks from there. So it's just it's initial stickiness where once you get a hold of your partner, you feel like there's nothing that can take you off of him. And that was the end of that round. All right, next roll here. Initial ankle connection. Try for the inversion. He does a good job of stepping over. So you see here, he stops the initial inversion, and then as he goes to lean forwards, okay, so you see his head. See, it's so subtle. You see his head where it is right now. Watch it come forward slightly. That's all you need. There to there. There to there. And now inversion happens. Now before I can get to his leg, he quickly backsteps over and recovers. But finds himself in the same position now where he's incredibly off balanced. And as he backsteps, where is he? In a situation where his hand is on the ground, his hip is far outside of his knee, and now that makes it incredibly easy for me to go through, take that cross lat grip you see there, and use an Achilles grip to come up. Okay, obviously his foot was completely on top of my hip, so a backstep was out of the question, but coming up to top is relatively easy from there. Okay, so this time you see I have the initial outside De La Riva, and now it's just to crush that De La Riva hook, so I have to switch my hand from being underneath my own leg to on top of his leg. So you see what I did here? I don't want to just let go of his leg because then he can kick out. So I go from underneath my leg, I have the initial wedge between my fingers and hand and my knee, so he can't pull his leg out. And now I switch to a false grip over his knee. What this does is it allows me to catch the tendon behind his knee. You'll notice my hand locks him perfectly behind his hamstring, almost like a handle on a briefcase or something like that. So as I catch that tendon behind his kneecap, it allows me to pull his leg towards me as I extend my leg away. Like so. And that allows me to make a switch now from my foot in the outside positioning to my foot in the inside positioning. Now I have two legs inside. Now from here, he makes a mistake of trying to knee slide across to counter that. He doesn't want me to enter into his near leg. So he knee slides across to counter the Arimi Ashigurami entrance, but he finds himself in a cross Ashigurami situation. If you want to watch this, guys making mistakes like this, you see his shoelaces go from behind my hamstring to in front of my hamstring. He just puts himself in cross Ashi. Patrick Gaudio pretty much just did this like the entire match at Nogi Worlds. He just puts himself in the cross Ashi every single time and just like gets taken over because he just doesn't know what to do from here. He just tries to knee slide against a butterfly half guard / Sumpine De La Riva situations, and he just puts himself in cross Ashi and gets taken over. So a lot of good tape study there. So now we come in, and he's doing a good job of keeping his weight sprawled out and away from me. A lot of people have a question here, how can I turn a guy over? If you can't get to the second leg, so you see, I initially enter in, and the second I go to enter in, he immediately frees the second leg, or I let go of the second leg, and then I can't get to it the second time. I go to reach the second time, and I miss it. Whenever I see that, I have an Achilles grip, so you see there's some pressure on his knee there. You just use the Achilles grip to look over your opposite shoulder and roll him through. And because of the tension on the knee, he can't resist or he'll break his own leg. So you use the Achilles grip to just sit through to a hip, and he has to roll or his leg's going to break, and then he's going to go over. And that makes it easy to roll him through and either attack the legs or high step on top. Does a good job backstepping there. It's more along the lines of guard retention stuff. You see he tries to kick out, but that's just an initial stickiness makes it difficult. Okay, so that's an interesting clip there. So I go in, I hit a reverse tripod. I catch, he goes to hop, 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 but he loses his balance and he falls. Now I have one leg inside, one leg outside. I pommel my leg to the outside like so, and then my knee comes to the inside. Okay, so notice, right now, I have a foot to the inside in between his two legs, but my knee is outside his knee. So what I'm looking to do is to take my foot to the inside, underneath, and my knee to the inside as well. Now what I would want to do, if he sat down, would be to pommel my right foot across the cross hashigurami. But because he springs right back up from here, he springs right back up, I instead make sure he can't come into knee on belly by posting my right hand on his hamstring. My right hand here on his hamstring. So that as he comes up, instead of entering into cross hashigurami, this allows me now to enter into 50-50 with the opposite leg. So instead of taking my right leg across to go into a cross ashi, that fails. He's pushing on the knee here, so cross ashi's out of the mix. My left leg is going to be used to fire over into 50-50 instead. And now the second he goes to rotate over, notice the heel's already exposed, and we're in place for the win. There's a lot going on here, but again, he goes to come in. The second he goes to square himself, so notice his left leg steps forward. Boom. His head comes down. Boom. And now that makes it easy for me to go right into an initial inversion to get that initial kazushi. So you kind of just got off balance here. So he's so focused on backstepping past the legs that he just didn't post his right hand out. So you see he tried to post on my leg to step out with the V grip, but it was too late, and he didn't post his right hand out wide enough. So it was easy for me, or maybe I think I grabbed his wrist actually. It was easy for me to just lift with the right leg, and he just made a mistake and was off balance and got taken up and over. So you see there, I have my ankle inside. He goes to back step. He goes to back step. I block the back step with my left foot. See there? So I wait for his foot leg to start coming down towards me, and I catch just the calf muscle, and I feed him back to the opposite side. So I have that sticky hook on his leg. And now he goes to back step a second time, and as he does that, because he's so far out and away from me, notice the first time he went to go back step, he backstepped and he was relatively on top of me. Like he's like reverse knee on belly here, his hips are over mine, his head's over mine. But now I start to create an angle where now his head is way far away from mine. He's not even facing me anymore. So he goes backstep a second time, and now I just use that to enter into his legs. And now I have an opportunity to either attack his legs or chase his back. But this is like, I did all the rolling for like seated guard, half guard, supine guard, and guard retention in the same footage. This is probably like my 20th match, so I just like didn't come up and chase his back or anything. I was probably exhausted here. So that time I had a scoop on his leg. So he came in, he stepped towards me. As he stepped towards me, I used that initial shift of the head with my right hand, my direction hand, to shift me towards his leg and scoop the leg with my left hand. And I was trying to enter, but you see again, he does a good job with his left hand. So you see his left hand's pinning my ankle. So now there's no sticky hook with my right leg behind his leg. So he feels that, and he goes, oh, I can backstep. But the left leg, you see here, the left foot has no connection. So he has nothing's monitoring my leg. So I can backstep from here. So he commits all of his weight to one side and tries to backstep. But as he does that, he runs into the sole of my foot. And now because he's throwing himself backwards through all that momentum, he just falls over and ends up on bottom with me. Now I can come up and heist or enter into his legs. And that small little blocker behind his leg makes all the difference between him backstepping and getting past my legs, and passing my guard, or him falling backwards and ending up with his legs getting attacked or ending up bottom. You see, once again, he goes in, V drips the shin, stays there too long. I bump everything forward, and now I have 2 feet inside. Now he wants to pull away, but what do we have? Ankle. Left hand moves down to the ankle. Now I can step one leg back, but not two. Now from here, I put 1 foot behind his buttocks, 1 foot on the floor, and I pull myself in, start bumping him forward to get to that second leg. The second leg's far away. So I pull myself in, and now I bump him forward, and now he's square. Now right hand goes right from the wrist, boom, to the ankle. There. Now we're right to an X guard. Sticky hooks are in place. We enter into outside Ashigurami. Now we're ready to go into leg attacks. And of course, leg attacks will be covered once we do eventually a leg attack instructional, or John's leg attack instructional. But right now, just entering into Ashigurami and putting his hips on the floor are all we're looking to do. Look at that. So you see this time he's trying to get creative and hop across to knee slice. Okay, so what he wanted to do would be to hop across, and if I didn't scoop his leg, to cut his knees down and crush my 2 knees together. Okay. The second he went to go do that, I just switched from an ankle grip, my hand's inside. Okay, so my hand is inside both of his knees and both of his ankles. So if he goes to jump across the opposite side, it gives me an easy scoop grip on the knee. So now if he tries to knee slice, which he does, you see there, I want to crush my 2 knees together and knee slice across. He tries to knee slice, but his shoelaces get caught on my elbow and bicep because of the scoop grip. So now he goes to knee slice, and it just completely ruins the entire move and gives me now the ability to start heisting up. Because what he wants to do is Now, kick off of me. So now he has his hands on the floor and is 2 feet off the ground. What he wants to do is kick off of me and use that to get up and like do a kick out and turn away. But by doing so, he gives me the opposite leg. Now I've controlled both of his legs. So now when he goes to move, only his one hand is supporting him on the floor, and obviously structurally it's very weak. And from here, with a scoop, it's very easy to come in and come off the top. Always making sure that I don't put myself in a triangle because of that scoop grip, and noticing that my elbow immediately comes to the inside of the hip, so there's no triangle danger. I can't just shoot my arm through and then get triangled the second I come up on top. Okay, so I always want to make sure that I have short elbows with an elbow inside the hip rather than to the outside of the hip and leg, so I get triangled. Okay, so just noting that here. See, he's not allowing the tripod by posting on the ankles, turning away. I set him down there, though. He needs to enter into an initial Ashigurami. And set him down. So a lot of stickiness here. Let's take a look at that. So, we come in. The initial tripod sits him down. You see how his foot's just elevated off the floor here? That sits him down, and I fail to come up. Notice, as I note that he's coming back up into me, notice my right foot moves from the outside of the hip to inside 2 legs. So as he goes to come on top of me, he can, but he gives me the ability to enter into an Ashigurami. Now he's smart. The second he comes up, he realizes that my 2 feet are inside, and he tries to backstep to get both of his feet to the same side of my body. But as he does that, what happens? He runs into my foot once again, blocking his calf muscle. Okay, so now the back step is ruined. Now, as he goes to reset, I have 2 legs inside once again. Now he goes to back step a second time, but this time, my left leg, my opposite leg is behind his hamstring. So that back step is foiled. And now, as he goes to come back in, so the back step comes, notice my left finger's up here, my hand slides down from above his knee to below his knee and captures his second ankle. But from here, as he goes to posture up, notice his shoulders start rising over his hips, and now that makes it easy for me to sit him down and come on top. He did a great job of not allowing me to knock him down to a hip by backstepping well, and then realizing that I was coming to come back inside and turning his knee down in the opposite direction. Okay, so right now, he has to turn his knee back in towards me so I don't knock him down, and as he does, I try to pommel inside, and he overcommits, as a smart person would, to bring his knee down towards the floor so I can't pommel in my leg inside. And now he goes back to neutral and restarts. I try to come behind him, but he kicks out and successfully manages to get away. Okay, you see that last sweep there where I try to start coming around behind him. He goes to square. And then notice I go right back in the opposite direction. So look, I go right shoulder. That fails. As he goes to square, I meet him back on the opposite side, all the way over to left shoulder. And once again, watch his heel being pulled by me up and off the ground slightly for him to be sitting down. And from one side to the other, one side to the other. And we finish off with a nice tripod sweep to the end of the 4th round. Alright, so fifth and final roll here. Let's see what we got. Initial tripod. Once again, heel right off the ground, and he's down. The reason why he didn't go all the way over is because I lost control of his foot. See how it slipped out? He had it off the ground, but then it slips as he falls, so he can heist up to his shin the second he falls and beat me up. He's at to sit to an Achilles. Now I have 2 legs inside. You see, I used that to get to a position where I started with a leg outside. You see I have my right foot inside, my left foot outside. I use that. Whereas he goes to come up, now my left foot's inside. So now I have 2 feet inside. And now I go for a second, not a tripod, but a second sweep there. He falls down to his shin again. Now I have 2 feet inside. We're now. And right here, basic guard retention stuff. You see how he goes to step into mount. A lot of you have this question. I know I'll have this question. What happens if I go into an ashigarami and the guy tries to step around my leg into a mount? Just keep a knee-elbow connection. See my left knee and my left elbow? Now he can't go in and mount me. There's no space between the knee and the elbow for his leg to get to the inside position. So I can easily stay in an ashigarami from here. It's more guard retention stuff. We're going to go over that, but just so you see the whole time is that knee-elbow connection, so he can never get his leg to the inside position relative to my elbow and step right across into mount. And it actually facilitates better, tighter ashigarami for me because his legs stay on either side of my body, so it's much better than him trying to rip out and away. X-guard comes in, does a good job of V-ripping the leg and trying to backstep over. And from here we go for another tripod. Notice that we get, once again, his heel up there. So as he goes to backstep out, he falls down to a hip. See, I tried the initial inversion there. It's a shot from one side. I'm relatively square, more even my right side. I just shoot to the right side or left side. I try to use that momentum to go into an inversion. He does a great job of keeping his shoelaces glued behind my hamstring, so I can't enter into any kind of ashigarami from here. Another tripod sit down. See the heel leave the ground. Take a look. He goes in. Standard reverse de la Hiva. The inversions weren't working, so instead this time I scooped the leg, pulled it towards me, And the whole thing is to get the heel up and away from the butt. So I reach over with the right hand to grab the heel. So he goes to pull the leg back, he can't. And instead of trying to sprawl or do any kind of that stuff, he rolls and tries to go to my back. But you notice, you see my right knee position relative to his hip. As he rolls me over, there's no back exposure because the knee's in the hip. If the knee wasn't in the hip, then he'd be able to take my back. Like if my right knee, for example, was on the inside of his leg, he would basically be attacking Turtle. Because my knee's on the outside of his hip, as he goes to get up, he can't. Now this allows me to switch, make a pass off from an underhand grip with my right hand to switch to a grip with my right hand or left hand. And then chase this second leg with my right hand, and now I'm up in top position. So my knee position here saves me from the back take. Same thing with Tim Spriggs. A lot of my matches, or you can see this, but Tim Spriggs is the most recent one, I'm pretty sure. Another reverse tripod, sit down. Notice the heel off the ground. The tripod to the heel off the ground. See, this whole exchange started. That initial stickiness to his right leg with my left hand. Notice. If he would have kicked his leg out, that exchange would have never started. But because I take away his ability to kick that leg out, that initial stickiness, it allows me to knock him down. It allows me to keep control of his opposite leg, and it allows me finally to move into an Ashigarami and get him off balanced. Now obviously his heel exposure here, but wasn't really trying to leg lock anybody. Good job stepping out. So I put him down. Pulls the leg out, switch to a cross grip on the other leg. Now, I could have came up from here if I really wanted to, but we should go back into the legs. He gets up. Notice as he gets up, he gives me that weightless leg where I can pull it towards me. And now, see, I try to stop the back step, but instead of trying to hold a long step past me with an extended leg, he just pulls his knee straight up to the ceiling and knee to his chest. That stops my ability to stop his calf from a long step. This is a different method. Instead of long stepping like everybody else did, he does a high step, where he just pulls the foot straight out and he high steps out. Instead of long stepping around in an arcing motion, he steps high with the knee, and that allows him to step out past my foot, and then steps the second leg out. Okay, see this time, he comes in, And notice my feet start inside, so they follow them up, they stay inside, and now I have a connection. And I bump them forward with that connection, and I got to take my ashigarami into place. He does a great job of V-gripping and backstepping right away as I go to enter. But as that happens, I manage to start creating heel exposure by reaping across and creating exposure on his heel. The knee comes out, and now we're back to square one. This is the dilemma of a sweep and attack on the legs. If he moves back, I threaten to come up. If he moves towards me, I threaten to go to the legs. If he moves back and away from me, I threaten to sweep him. So you play a dilemma of forwards, backwards, depending on what he does. He goes to come back. I try to pull him in. He goes to move away from me. Now I threaten to come up. He goes to come back into me. Now I threaten the legs. Now he goes to move back away from me. And now I come up. Again, that initial inversion. All I need is that foot coming forward slightly. Right there. See the foot moves forward. And see the head comes down. Foot forward, head down. And that's when I go. Knee behind. So it's a good job of squaring and high stepping out. Okay, this time, you see my foot monitoring his calf already. So this time he goes to step out. And this time, instead of trying to high step, he long steps. Okay, so you see the difference now. The high step is just vertical floor to ceiling. The foot comes up like so. A long step is this big arcing motion like he's doing now, where he tries to throw his leg back with an extended leg to the floor. So you see my foot monitors his leg, and the reason why he has to do a long step is because he's down on a knee. You can't high step when you're that close to the guy. You have to only high step when there's distance. When you're close, you long step. When there's distance and you're standing, you long step. Or you high step, rather. Okay, so he goes to long step. I block his leg, and now where is he? His hip is far outside of his knee, and he's down to a hand. This allows me now to easily start heisting up. And he tries pretty hard now, this time to not get swept. But the reverse knee on belly with the control of that Achilles grip doesn't look like I'm really stable from here, but this is a very robust situation. Or even he goes to tight waist, he goes to double leg. When he goes to get up, he can't take that leg away. You can't get up without scissoring your legs. So as he goes to explode on top of me, it's useless, and the score's right there. That's the end of the fifth final round. Okay, so hopefully you guys saw, obviously a lot of the things we went over in the technique portion. Okay, the job for you is going to be able to chain those together at the appropriate times. Okay, switching from De La Riva to reverse De La Riva, vice versa, switching from an initial off balance or inversion into attacking your partner's legs, into Ashigarami X guard, and being able to chain all of those sequences together coherently under pressure against people who are maybe much heavier, much younger, much better than you are. Okay, so that's going to be the challenge. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. I think this is still going to end up being 7.5 hours long with the commentary and everything. 7.5, 8 hours. I'm hoping. So I know it's a lot of information, but it's a perfect addition to the seated guard. Okay, obviously, seated guard was just how we can enter into Ashigarami X guard, and this was finishing from those positions. And then obviously next is going to be when we enter into the legs, attacking the legs, and when we set our partner down to a butt, how can we attack legs after that? Okay, so you see everything's kind of giving you guys everything in order. So next is going to be half guard and then guard retention as far as technique instructionals go. So hopefully you guys are excited for those. And then we're going to look at the interplay between seated guard, supine guard, and half guard, butterfly half guard, things like that. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys hopefully enjoyed the the real world examples of me doing this. You see this in my matches and competition as well. Yeah, thanks so much, guys.